If you too are wondering about the brutal, deadly pipeline in Mexico, you have landed in the right place. In this video, we are going to discuss it. Hi and welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. Let's get started. How did it all start? While foreign fuel theft is a concern for Mexico's economic and political stability, some analysts consider petroleum theft a new form of organized crime. Its activity is concentrated in the three corners of the Red Triangle. The Red Triangle encloses Puebla's municipality of Tepeaca, Palmar de Bravo, Acajete and Tecamachalco obviously. Mexico's state oil company, known as Petroleos Mexicanos or Pemex, is challenged by the activism that causes the products to suffer extreme loss and causes excruciating violence. Growing challenges to state and economic solvency are permeating the market domestically, due to which corruption for potential fuels is rising, local and national criminal insurgencies are taking place. Petroleum theft is an important component of Mexico's illegal and criminal political economy. In early 2009, Forbes reported that the number of clandestine pipelines in the Pemex national pipeline network was growing, with losses estimated at $720 million in 2008. To make up for losses from the government crackdown on drugs, narcotics gangs entered the petroleum trade. On the drug trade, early participants in the fuel trade included the Gulf cartel known as Cartel del Golfo and their rival Los Zetas, a splinter group that broke away from the Gulf cartel's orbit. The Zetas spread their criminal empire across Mexico's eastern coast into Central America until they in turn split into rival factions, the Zetas Vieja Escuela, which were the old school Zetas, and the Cartel del Norte CDN or Northeast Cartel. The brutally deadly pipeline in Mexico. Along with the loss of life for the country, as well as the financial explosion, how did this event become the story of Mexico's deadliest pipeline? You will learn more about this event as we dive into the details. So sit tight and stay with us till the end of this video. But before that, here's a quick reminder that you can subscribe for free and like the video, and the comments are most welcomed. The rising concern about the threat posed by armed gangs stealing from Mexicans' gasoline pipelines was increasing. The Mexican army was routinely called in to deal with criminals who attacked pipelines and armored trucks with automatic guns because police action was most of the time insufficient. Fuel theft from Petroleos Mexicanos is an expanding type of organized crime that has resulted in a number of deadly confrontations. Villages located along pipeline corridors were now involved in an industrial-scale business. According to the government, more than 6,000 illegal pipeline taps were discovered in 2016, and so far in 2017, authorities have uncovered an average of 20 taps per day. The Mexican government is thought to lose roughly $1 billion annually due to fuel theft. Of all the fuel that is stolen, only 10% is sold to the public by roadside vendors, said Jesus Morales, the top police official in Puebla state. The other 90% goes to big business groups, to gas stations and factories. The fuel theft gangs often have the support of corrupt local officials and the residents of towns that rely on income from pipeline tapping. Even 2 mayors have been arrested for being involved in the trade. In early July 2017, 9 people were killed, including 5 men whose bodies were burned in a dispute between fuel thieves in the town of Hueyotlan in Puebla state. It was said that the killings involved a gang of distributors trying to collect from local vendors who were unable to meet their sales quotas because of police raids. They committed this barbarous act as a gesture of anger, said Morales, who claimed that vendors have recently raised the price of stolen fuel to near that of legitimate gasoline. It used to be half as much because their supplies are being cut off by the frequent raids. Fields are littered with leaking illegal taps, abandoned fuel tanks, and modified vehicles, whose interiors have been ripped out to hold 1,000-liter tanks. The vehicles the gangs use are usually stolen and abandoned after a few trips. Over 1,700 such vehicles have been seized in the last 2 months. Fires from the stolen or illegal fuel are common. Arrests are rarely made because when police move in, the thieves run and abandon the trucks. Other tactics to avoid capture include pushing half-full fuel tanks off the back of fleeing trucks, parking vehicles crosswise on dirt roads, or even using chains of women and children as human shields. Inflationary pressure. Hikes in the past, increased gas prices and fuel shortages have been associated with pipeline tapping and fuel truck robberies. To stop the illegal taps, the Mexico government placed restrictions on transferring oil through the national pipeline system in 2019. This led to severe shortages in the western regions of Mexico, particularly Jalisco. Although oil theft has always been a preferred form of illegal economy in Mexico, the rise in oil prices has made the black market for gasoline more attractive than ever. Inflation and the Russian-Ukrainian conflict have driven up oil prices globally in 2022. Despite government subsidies that make gas inexpensive for the majority of Mexicans, businesses have experienced supply issues. The flood of Americans crossing the border in pursuit of lower gas prices caused shortages in Mexico's northern areas. All of this has given criminals the ideal excuse to step up their oil theft operations. The Latin America Risk Report makes the point that criminal organizations are not only motivated to take advantage of increased prices through theft and the sale of contraband, but also to extort energy firms that are benefiting financially from them. In fact, it could be argued that the possibility of enormous gains from gas theft during periods of shortage or high price directly contributed to the development of the world of crime in Mexico, and since have caused incalculable harm to the nation, according to investigating journalist Danielle Blancas. The 2017 Gasolinazo Crisis. The 2017 Gasolinazo crisis, which was brought on by the largest increase in gas prices in 20 years, was the source of a massive increase in pipeline tapping. The Santa Rosa de Lima cartel is one of the most renowned gangs linked to oil theft. Its operations revolved around Huachicol, and at its peak in 2018, it generated profits of between $800,000 and $1.2 million per day. The cartel's home state of Guanajuato is currently one of the most violent in all of Mexico. According to a recent report from the International Crisis Group, fuel theft started to spike in 2010 as the Zetas and the Gulf Cartel entered the illicit economy. More recently, criminal groups have continued to target insecure oil and gas infrastructure, drilling sophisticated tunnels to access pipelines and bringing up their use of technology to avoid detection. In 2020, Roberto Diaz de Leon, president of the National Fuel Retailers Association, on Expo referred to fuel thieves as the main competitors of gas station owners. In this country, there is an illegal parallel network of fuel supply and distribution whose presence and influence is quite strong, he told Mexico Business News in an interview. Cachimbas, unregulated roadside stops where motorists can fill their tanks illegally, is the most common way criminal groups resell their siphon fuel. According to Diaz de Leon, there are at least 4 cachimbas for every one of Mexico's 13,000 legal gas stations. Now that we have walked you through the background and impact of the pipeline pilferage and oil thefts, let's discuss the deadliest event that proposed this. The deadliest pipeline explosion. The news broke in Mexico as Hidalgo State Governor Omar Fayed said that 71 people had now died as a result of a pipeline explosion in central Mexico. A day after a massive fireball erupted at an illegal pipeline tap in the small town about 62 miles north of Mexico City, Municipal Health Director Jorge Aguilar Lopez said, "What happened here should serve as an example for the entire nation to unite behind the president's fight against this illness." Over 85 additional people were listed as missing. Only 3 weeks had passed since the country's new president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, launched a battle against gasoline theft gangs who had dug 12,581 unlawful hazardous taps into the pipeline when this deadly fire broke out. A gasoline pipeline explosion occurred on January 18, 2019 in the Mexican state of Hidalgo's town of Tlalpan. At least 137 people were killed and many more were wounded in the explosion. Authorities in Mexico laid the blame on gasoline thieves who had unauthorized access to the pipeline. Due to the fact that there were several people gathered at the area to grab gasoline, the explosion was very lethal. Security personnel attempted to get people to leave the area, but they were outnumbered and told to avoid interacting with individuals for fear of starting a violent altercation. The explosion happened 2 hours after the breach at 7:10 p.m. The leak was first reported at 5:04 p.m. Responders took nearly 4 hours to put out this massive fire. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video.